The sound echoed. 7-year-old Kai Thompson froze. His small hands trembled. It was 3:47 p.m. on a Wednesday afternoon at Sterling Industries, headquarters in downtown Cincinnati. The massive corporate building gleamed with marble floors and floor-to-ceiling windows, but Kai barely noticed the grandeur. He was too busy trying not to cry as he stared at the broken pieces of what used to be an expensive-looking blue vase. His mother, Rosa Thompson, worked the evening cleaning shift at Sterling Industries. She was a single mother of 2, struggling to make ends meet after her husband died in a factory accident 3 years ago. Today, her usual babysitter had cancelled last minute due to illness, and Rosa couldn't afford to miss work. Reluctantly, she'd brought Kai and his 4-year-old sister Mia to the office, planning to keep them quiet in the break room while she worked. Kai wore his favorite red t-shirt with a cartoon dinosaur on it, though it was getting too small for his growing frame. His sneakers had holes in the sides, carefully covered with duct tape that Rosa had decorated with smiley faces to make him feel better about their worn condition. His dark hair was neatly combed, the way his mother always insisted, even when they could barely afford soap. "Kai, stay close to Mama," Rosa had whispered as they entered the gleaming lobby. She wore her grey cleaning uniform, her hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. At 32, she looked older than her years, stress lines etched around her, brown eyes from working 2 jobs and raising 2 children alone. The plan had been simple: keep the kids in the small employee break room on the 15th floor while Rosa cleaned the executive offices after hours. But Kai had gotten restless. He'd been sitting quietly for 2 hours, coloring in a worn coloring book, when he heard voices in the hallway. "I need those reports on my desk first thing tomorrow," came a deep, authoritative voice. Kai peeked out the break room door and saw a tall man in an expensive navy suit walking down the hallway. The man appeared to be in his early 40s, with graying temples and the kind of confident stride that came with power. This was Sterling Industries' CEO, Harrison Blake. Behind him walked a younger woman in a sharp business suit, frantically taking notes. "Yes, Mr. Blake, I'll make sure the Peterson account files are ready for review." Kai had never seen anyone so important looking in real life. Curious, he crept out of the break room to get a better look. Ignoring his mother's earlier warnings to stay put, the executive floor was like a museum. Expensive artwork lined the walls, and glass cases displayed awards and artifacts from the company's 50-year history. But what caught Kai's attention was a beautiful blue vase sitting on a pedestal near the elevator bank. It was covered in intricate patterns that seemed to swirl and dance in the overhead lighting. Kai had always been drawn to pretty things. In their tiny apartment, Rosa kept a small collection of ceramic figurines on a high shelf, the only decoration they could afford. She'd taught him to appreciate beauty, even when they couldn't afford much of it themselves. The vase was positioned just at his eye level, and Kai found himself mesmerized by its deep blue color and delicate gold trim. He stepped closer, wanting to see the patterns more clearly. The pedestal was narrower than he'd thought, and as he leaned in for a better look, his elbow accidentally knocked against it. Time seemed to slow as the vase teetered, wobbled, and crashed to the marble floor with a sound like thunder. "What the hell was that?" Harrison Blake's voice boomed from his office. Kai's heart hammered in his chest as he stared at the broken pieces scattered across the floor. The beautiful blue ceramic had shattered into dozens of sharp fragments, and he could see his own terrified reflection in each piece. Harrison appeared in the doorway of his office, his face darkening when he saw the destruction. "What happened?" "Here, I'm sorry," Kai whispered, his voice barely audible. "I didn't mean to." "You didn't mean to." Harrison's voice rose with each word. "Do you have any idea what that vase was worth?" "That was a Ming Dynasty replica, worth $20,000. Kai didn't know what $20,000 meant, but he knew from the man's tone that it was more money than his family had ever seen. His mother worked 60 hours a week and still struggled to buy groceries. "I'm sorry," Kai repeated, tears streaming down his face. "I'm really, really sorry." "Sorry doesn't fix a $20,000 vase," Harrison snapped. "Where are your parents? Who brought you here?" Just then, Rosa came running down the hallway, her cleaning cart rattling behind her. She'd heard the crash and her son's voice from 3 offices away. "Kai, what happened?" she gasped, then saw the broken vase and Harrison's furious expression. Her face went pale. "Oh no, oh no, no, no." "Ma'am, is this your child?" Harrison demanded. Yes, sir. I'm so sorry. I'm Rosa Thompson. I worked the evening cleaning shift. My babysitter cancelled, and I couldn't afford to miss work, so I brought my children with me. They were supposed to stay in the break room. Her voice trembled as she spoke. Well, your son just destroyed a priceless piece of art, Harrison said coldly. That vase was worth more than you make in a year. Rosa's knees seemed to buckle. How? How much? $20,000. And I expect full compensation. The number hit Rosa like a physical blow. She made $12 an hour, working evenings at Sterling Industries and mornings at a local diner. $20,000 might as well have been 20 million. Sir, please, she said, her voice breaking. I'll work extra shifts. I'll do anything. Just please don't fire me. My children, we have nowhere else to go. Harrison's assistant, Jennifer Walsh, stood nearby taking notes. She was a woman in her late 20s, with perfectly styled blonde hair and a designer suit that probably cost more than Rosa's monthly rent. She watched the scene with cold detachment, as if she were observing a business transaction rather than a family's crisis. Mr. Blake, Jennifer said smoothly, should I call security to escort them out? Wait, came a quiet voice from behind them. Everyone turned to see an elderly man approaching from the elevator bank. He was perhaps 70 years old, with white hair and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He wore a simple brown cardigan over a white shirt, looking completely out of place in the gleaming corporate environment. Grandpa Joe. Harrison's voice changed completely, becoming respectful and warm. I didn't know you were coming by today. The elderly man was Joseph Sterling, Harrison's grandfather and the founder of Sterling Industries. Though he'd officially retired 15 years ago, he still maintained an office on the top floor and occasionally visited to check on the company he'd built from nothing. I was just leaving when I heard the commotion, Joseph said gently. He walked over to Kai, who was still standing among the broken pieces, tears streaming down his face. What's your name, son? Joseph asked, kneeling down to Kai's level. Kai, the boy whispered. That's a strong name. Can you tell me what happened, Kai? Kai looked up at his mother, who nodded encouragingly, despite her own fear. I wanted to see the pretty vase. I didn't mean to break it. I was just looking, and I bumped into it with my elbow. Joseph nodded seriously. I see. And how do you feel about breaking it? Really, really bad, Kai said, his voice cracking. I know it was expensive, and now my mama's gonna lose her job, and we won't have money for food or rent, and it's all my fault. Grandpa Joe, Harrison interjected. This is a serious matter. The vase was worth. I heard you the first time. Harrison, Joseph said quietly, but there was steel in his voice. $20,000. He stood up slowly, studying the broken pieces at his feet. Do you know where this vase came from, Harrison? It's a Ming Dynasty replica. We bought it from that gallery in New York for the lobby renovation. That's right, a replica. Joseph's voice grew thoughtful. Do you know why I started this company, Harrison? Harrison looked confused by the question. To build wealth for our family. No, Joseph shook his head. I started this company because I believed that how we treat people, especially those who have less than us, defines who we are as human beings. He gestured to Rosa, who was still trembling beside her cleaning cart. This woman works 2 jobs to support her children. She brought them here tonight because she couldn't afford childcare, and she couldn't afford to miss work. Her son made an innocent mistake, the kind any curious child might make. But the vase, Harrison began, is a thing, Harrison, a replaceable thing. Joseph's voice grew firm. But this woman's dignity, her job, her ability to feed her children, those are not replaceable. He turned to Kai, who was watching with wide eyes. Kai, I want to ask you something very important. If you could do anything to make this right, what would you do? Kai thought seriously about the question. I would work really hard to pay for it. I would do chores and save all my allowance, even if it took forever. Even if it took forever. Joseph asked. Yes, sir, because I broke it, so I should fix it. Joseph smiled for the first time since arriving. That's exactly the right answer, son. Taking responsibility for our mistakes is what makes us good people. He turned to Harrison. This boy has more integrity in his 7-year-old heart than most adults I know. He's willing to work forever, to make things right, but he's just a child. Harrison protested. He can't possibly pay for your right, Joseph said. He can't, but he's willing to try. That willingness to take responsibility, to make amends even when the task seems impossible. That's the kind of character I tried to build this company on. Joseph walked over to the broken vase pieces and picked up a larger fragment, examining it thoughtfully. I remember when I first opened Sterling Industries. I was barely older than Rosa here. I made mistakes, broke things, lost money, disappointed people. But I was lucky enough to work for a man who believed in second chances. He looked at Rosa. Mrs. Thompson, how long have you worked here? 2 years, sir, Rosa said quietly. And in those 2 years, have you ever caused any problems? Been late, missed work, done anything to make us question your character? No, sir. I've never missed a day, except when my children were sick. Joseph nodded. Harrison, this woman has been a reliable employee for 2 years. She's here tonight, working to support her family, despite having no childcare. She's exactly the kind of person this company should value. He turned back to Kai. And this young man has shown more accountability in the last 5 minutes than most people show in a lifetime. What are you saying, Grandpa Joe? Harrison asked. I'm saying that sometimes breaking something can teach us more about what really matters than any amount of money. Joseph set down the vase fragment and faced his grandson. Harrison, I want you to think about what kind of man you want to be. The kind who destroys a family over a replaceable object, or the kind who shows mercy and understanding. He paused, letting his words sink in. I'm also wondering why a 7-year-old child was able to accidentally knock over a $20,000 vase. Shouldn't something that valuable be properly secured? Jennifer, who had been silent throughout the exchange, spoke up nervously. Sir, the vase was positioned according to the designer's specifications for the lobby renovation, on a narrow pedestal at child height, with no security or barriers. Joseph asked, That seems like poor planning to me. Harrison's face reddened. Are you suggesting this is our fault? I'm suggesting that accidents happen, especially when we don't take proper precautions. A valuable item displayed in a public area without proper security is an accident waiting to happen. Joseph walked over to Rosa. Mrs. Thompson, I want to offer you a different position. Day shift supervisor for our facilities management team. Better hours, better pay, and benefits that include childcare assistance. Rosa stared at him in shock. Sir, I don't understand. I need people with integrity working for this company. People who take responsibility, who care about doing the right thing. You've raised a son who's willing to work forever to make things right. That tells me everything I need to know about your character. Kai tugged on his mother's uniform. Mama, does this mean you won't lose your job? Rosa knelt down and hugged her son tightly. No, baby. It means everything's going to be okay. Joseph smiled. Kai, I want to show you something. He walked over to a nearby display case and opened it, revealing a small, clearly handmade ceramic bowl. Do you know what this is? Kai shook his head. This is the first thing I ever made in pottery class when I was 8 years old. It's crooked, the glaze is uneven, and it's not worth a penny to anyone but me. But I've kept it in my office for 60 years because it reminds me of something important. What? Kai asked. That the things we make with our hands and hearts are worth more than the things we buy with money. This broken vase can be replaced tomorrow. But the lesson you learned today about taking responsibility, about making things right, that's worth more than $20,000. Harrison watched his grandfather with a mixture of admiration and confusion. But the vase will be replaced, Joseph said firmly, and properly secured this time. Consider it a lesson in risk management. He turned to Kai one more time. Son, I want you to promise me something. Promise me that you'll always remember that making mistakes doesn't make you bad, it makes you human. What makes you good is how you handle those mistakes. I promise, Mr. Sterling, Kai said solemnly. Good, and I want you to know that anytime you want to visit the office with your mother, you're welcome here. Maybe you can help us make sure everything is properly secured so no other curious children have accidents. 6 months later, Rosa Thompson sat in her new office on the 10th floor of Sterling Industries, reviewing schedules for the facilities management team. Through her window, she could see the downtown Cincinnati skyline, a view she'd never imagined. Having the promotion had changed everything for her family. The better salary and benefits meant she could work 1 job instead of 2, spend more time with her children, and even save money for their future. Kai was excelling in school, and little Mia was thriving in the company's on-site daycare program. But the most important change was harder to quantify. The day Kai broke the vase had taught both of them something valuable about taking responsibility, about how people with power choose to use it, and about the difference between things that can be replaced and things that cannot. Joseph Sterling had kept his word. The vase had been replaced with an exact replica, this time properly secured in a reinforced display case. But more importantly, he'd used the incident to implement new policies throughout the company, policies that emphasized employee welfare, workplace safety, and the importance of treating everyone with dignity. Kai still visited the office sometimes. After school, now that Rosa worked days, he'd made friends with several employees, including Jennifer Walsh, who had surprised everyone by becoming one of the most vocal advocates for the company's new family-friendly policies. You know, Jennifer had told Rosa one day, "Watching your son take responsibility for his mistake made me realize how rarely adults do the same thing." It was humbling. Harrison Blake had also changed, though more gradually. The incident with his grandfather had forced him to examine his own values and leadership style. He'd started a mentorship program for single parents among the company's employees and had become genuinely invested in creating a more compassionate workplace culture. One evening, as Rosa was finishing her work, she found Kai in the lobby, standing in front of the new vase display. The replacement vase was identical to the original, but now it sat safely behind reinforced glass. "Do you miss the old one?" Rosa asked. Kai considered the question seriously. "No, Mama. The old one was pretty, but it was scary too. This one is pretty and safe." "And what did you learn from breaking the old one?" "That mistakes happen, but what matters is how we fix them, and that some people are kind even when they don't have to be." Rosa smiled and took her son's hand. "That's right, baby, that's exactly right." As they walked toward the elevator, neither of them noticed Joseph Sterling. Watching from the mezzanine level above, he smiled to himself, thinking about the chain of events that had started with a broken vase and led to so much positive change. Sometimes, he reflected, the most valuable lessons come from the most unexpected places. And sometimes, what seems like a disaster is actually an opportunity to discover what really matters. The vase had been replaced, but the impact of that day would last forever. In the end, what had been broken was far more than glass. It was the barriers between people, the assumptions about worth and value, and the old ways of thinking that had kept compassion locked away. And what had been built in its place was something far more valuable than any artifact: understanding, opportunity, and hope. The new vase gleamed behind its protective glass, beautiful and secure. But the real treasure wasn't in the display case. It was in the lives that had been changed, the lessons learned, and the kindness that had grown from a moment of breaking into something whole and strong and lasting.